I didn't fucking deserve this. I did not fucking deserve for this to happen, man. Why does God fucking hate me, man?
This is SHiFT, the world's most dedicated Spongebob speedrunner. He's been constantly streaming and achieving world records since 2016, and despite proving to millions of people, time and time again, that he is the best on the planet, he still doesn't seem satisfied. Until later on in this same exact run, where he sets yet another world record.
Consider that a back-to-back. I don't care what anybody says. That's a back-to-back 109.
Are you ready, kids?
Fuck this game. And fuck everybody here. No, just kidding. Thanks for sticking around.
My first ever video game console was a hand-me-down GameCube, and a game I remember playing growing up was Spongebob SquarePants: Battle for Bikini Bottom. The game had 3 versions, one for home consoles, one for the Game Boy Advance, and one for Windows. Today we're just going to be focusing on the home console version. The game is a 3D platformer. You jump, explore levels, and collect items. While it's a solid 3D platformer, and received mixed to somewhat positive reviews back when it was released in 2003, the game was labeled a greatest hit among all 3 home consoles it was released on, despite the at the time lackluster critical response, selling an estimated 3 million copies across all consoles, most of which were on the PS2. While yes, you could say it's just a solid, well-programmed 3D platformer, however, it's so lively. The game is very respectful and faithful to the source material Steven Hillenburg and the SpongeBob team created. The levels feel just how you'd imagine exploring Bikini Bottom would be like. The soundtrack sounds like a SpongeBob episode, and so do the sound effects. The faithfulness to the source material makes a lot of sense when you realize a lot of the SpongeBob team were involved in the project's creation, and because of that, alongside some nostalgia, the game's cult status in recent years should make a lot of sense. To the point where some reviewers have reappraised the game in retrospect, claiming it was better than they originally gave it credit for. I think part of Bikini Bottom's original lukewarm response was partly due to the negative stigma around licensed kid games. Prior to the release of Bikini Bottom, a different studio released Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. The game was bad. That was even if you could get it to work. The game straight up wouldn't work on certain PS2 models, and the studio who made it went bankrupt after its release. In 2019, it was announced Bikini Bottom would be receiving a complete HD remake called SpongeBob SquarePants: Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. Something which is completely unheard of for a licensed kids game. Back in the day, companies like Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network would license their properties out to game developers. Then normally, a bad or mediocre game would be made, it would sell well because of children, game journalists would normally ignore reviewing them, and eventually, everybody would just forget about them. So the fact that this game wasn't just re-released to try to cash in on its recently gained cult status, but instead remade entirely by a different studio is insane. In 2023, a spiritual sequel to Bikini Bottom would be released, called The Cosmic Shake. Even 20 years later, the original game is still beloved, and game developers know this. With a cult classic game comes speedrunning. A speedrun is where a player tries to beat the game as fast as possible, in order to achieve a world record. Speedruns of Bikini Bottom would actually help the game's re-emergence in popularity. According to a video series by SHiFT, as previously stated, he is someone who has been competing and winning world records running this game for almost a decade. Like a lot of competitive video game players, he has his fans, but also some trolls, critics, and detractors. You can find many channels that document what they see as poor, foolish, or even funny behavior. SHiFT tends to get really upset when playing the game, and when you stream the same game all day for years, you seemingly start to stop enjoying it. This happens to a lot of competitive players. The game they once loved stops being fun, because now it's not about having fun. It's become your livelihood, and the game can be frustrating at times. But SHiFT's relationship with the game and the world around him is much more complicated than just simply being tired of playing one game. Today we're going to explore the history and career of SHiFT. SHiFT began speedrunning Battle for Bikini Bottom on stream in April 2016, when he was 19 years old. He began replaying the game from his childhood after watching old videos showcasing tricks in the game, and he wanted to learn them himself. After getting good, he decided he should try beating the game as fast as possible. A speed run, one could say. He decided to start live streaming his attempts to save space on his laptop, as saving hours upon hours of game footage takes up a lot of hard drive space. When SHiFT began streaming, there was only one other person running the game on Twitch, a guy named Fuff, who was the current world record holder for the any% run. At this point in time, there really wasn't any sort of community for the game, which SHiFT was later interested in changing, because he felt the game deserved more. SHiFT began to garner a small audience, but not everyone was big on the idea of speedrunning a SpongeBob game. SHiFT has said his speedruns were not instantly taken seriously by chatters, but still he persisted in running the game. There are two main categories for Bikini Bottom speedrunning, any% and 100%. In any% means you get to the end of the game with as many collectibles as you were able and wanted to complete the game with. A 100% means not only did you beat the game, you 100%ed it, you collected everything. And by everything, I think that just refers to golden spatulas. A 100% obviously takes longer to complete, as you are responsible for achieving more things within the game. On May 25th, 2016, SHiFT achieved a 109 any% run. What makes this so significant was, at the time, running the game was pretty inaccessible. If you want to speedrun a game like Mario 64, there are endless sources to learn how to do it, but there was none for Bikini Bottom. After getting his new personal best, SHiFT then on the same day created a tutorial video on stream. SHiFT doing this would be huge, as it led to more people running and competing for the world record, and the creation of a community Discord server. A few days later, on June 5th of that same year, he set his first of many world records. He beat the game any% with an hour, 7 minutes, and 14 seconds. The first place record would be taken from him only a few days later. But this was just the beginning of his obsession with becoming the best. In October of that year, he became partnered on Twitch solely by playing the game. Around that time, becoming a partner on Twitch appeared to be hard. SHiFT told me he was averaging 200 viewers, and they still rejected him for months. Not to mention, this was before Twitch had affiliate status. So SHiFT was making literally zero money through Twitch itself. SHiFT would later become partnered without a face cam, which many thought was near impossible at the time. This might sound weird now, but this was before the age of VTuber dominance. Nowadays, it's much easier to not only get paid, but also get partnered. You need to be streaming a lot and have above an average of 75 concurrent viewers. Becoming partnered is a big deal for streamers. Nowadays on Twitch, there's affiliate and partner status. Partner is your end goal if you're trying to have a full-time career. While affiliated, you can still make money off your streams. However, when partnered, the deal is sweetened. Without getting into the weeds of it, you basically get to make more money and get access to more features on the Twitch website. Most importantly, you get a special checkmark next to your name, the indicator that you are a real deal streamer, and not just a chatter or a wannabe streamer. You even get to go to special parties at TwitchCon. And hey, if you're business savvy, you can maybe even become a streamer the Twitch staff selects to promote. So the fact that SHiFT achieved this accomplishment within a year of starting to stream just one game that almost no one else was playing at a time when it was harder, when no face cam, is very impressive. A few months later, on January 4th, 2017, he pushed the record even further and became the first person to complete the game any% in under an hour. This accomplishment would mark the beginning of a very big year for SHiFT. Not only did he find great success outside of streaming SpongeBob, as he got a lot of viewers streaming Friday the 13th. Quite a departure from SpongeBob. He also continued to bring Bikini Bottom speedrunning to new heights throughout, although it wasn't entirely perfect. While constantly grinding on Twitch, doing daily 12-hour streams, SHiFT started to garner some criticism due to the way he acted on stream, as he would engage in angry outbursts. He and his fans brushed it off, saying it just helped him with his runs, and some viewers thought it was endearing, and him getting angry just meant he was passionate. At the time, the criticism just faded into background fuzz. Due to his recent success, SHiFT became the first person to play a Spongebob game at a Games Done Quick event on January 14th, 2017, only a few days after being the first person to beat the game under an hour. In the speedrunning community, Games Done Quick was, and still kinda is, a big deal. It's an in-person, for-charity event, in which the top speedrunners beat games as fast as possible, while raising money. GDQ has raised millions of dollars for good causes, and it gets a lot of viewers, so that's why it's important if you are a runner. However, Games Done Quick, or GDQ, has received a lot of criticism and has been involved in many scandals. One of these big scandals involved the topic of today's video, although we are currently years out from that. Right now, SHiFT is a rising star getting his big break. For SHiFT in the community, getting the game into GDQ was a challenge. There was already this negative stigma, with even the organization thinking there wasn't a crossover between speedrunning and SpongeBob, which was a horrifically aged statement, and also just silly. SpongeBob is one of the biggest media properties in the world, who has had a presence in gaming since 2001 on the Game Boy Color. Why wouldn't there be a crossover? Why wouldn't there be a crossover in interest? When the game was finally accepted, SHiFT wouldn't be taking the glory for himself. Alongside him at GDQ were other members of the community who had been impactful in developing the game's speedrun, and they sat with him, microphones and all, on stream. His first run with GDQ was seen by almost 200,000 live concurrent people on Twitch. It has been viewed around 500,000 times since on YouTube re-uploads, with commenters praising him, as unlike other speedrunners, SHiFT commentated throughout the speedrun.
Now we're coming up to a trick until a few months ago was previously thought to be only task viable, but through lots of practice we've made it consistent. And it's very difficult, so let's see if I can get it. At first try.
Nice.
There we go.
That was really good.
Near perfect execution.
A lot of speedrunners are silent when competing, but not SHiFT. He likely felt he needed to explain the game and what he was doing, as he wasn't just promoting himself, but the game's speedrunning community. He wanted, and still wants, the game to be respected as a serious speedrunning game. Bikini Bottom is a highly optimized and challenging speedrun. It's a collect-a-thon game, in which there are 3 types of main collectibles you need to collect. Collectibles are required to progress to other areas in the game. So the entire speedrun is based around how to do this as fast as possible. Not only that, but some levels have their own special collectible that you need to account for, meaning at some points, you need to keep track of obtaining up to 4 different collectibles at once. The levels and collectibles can be essentially obtained in any order, due to sequence breaking and skips that have been discovered over the years. This has led to the game becoming some sort of unsolvable puzzle, with the path of collecting everything constantly changing and evolving. In order to lower your time, you must perform extremely difficult and complex moves in the game, and you need to pull a dozen of these off, hopefully on the first try, to lower your time. Some of these tricks need to be frame perfect, which for a game running at 60 frames per second can be difficult. To make these frame perfect tricks even harder, SpongeBob has different animations for things like damage. So, if one of these tricks involves taking damage, you need to be able to tell which of the 5 damage animations is playing. Then hit the button at the right frame. Oh, and in some areas in the game, the frame rate can actually dip to the high 50s, which can also impact the chances of pulling off the trick. Not to mention, not only can the tricks be frame perfect, but sometimes angular perfect as well, with one of the playable characters needing to be at an extremely precise angle. Because of all of this, the tricks can be hard to pull off, and sometimes they aren't always the most consistent. SHiFT told me they can be finicky. So sometimes you can just get unlucky with the trick, and your speedrun is over. Some of these tricks are partly RNG based. Take, for example, the hammer skip at the beginning, where the robot and fish spawn is random. Some spawn placements are more preferable. Then you gotta hope you can line up everything correctly, identify which damage animation is playing, hit the frame-perfect glitch triple jump, and complete the skip. Real-time math is also a part of the run. You always need to be keeping track of your shiny objects, because there's times where you need a lot. But also a part where you need to be below a certain threshold to activate a glitch near the end of the run. Things like these have led to the speedrun becoming more respected. The appearance in GDQ was huge for the game. Former CEO of Purple Lamp, Andrew Hance, actually rediscovered the game from this event, taking note in the game's reemergence in popularity. Purple Lamp would go on to be formed in 2018, and they released the HD remake of Bikini Bottom in 2020. Prior to the game's remake release in 2019, SHiFT was flown out to Purple Lamp Studio, all the way down in Australia to test the game. With him, he brought code written by a viewer named Satchel. SHiFT assisted him in the creation of it. The code recreated the movement mechanics from the original game, and also contained the famous cruise boosting glitch, which allows SpongeBob to travel much faster than the game's developers intended. The folks over at Purple Lamp were actively aware of the speedrunning community, so they were aware of the glitches.
So there, obviously, if there was a glitch in the old one that allowed you to go somewhere where you shouldn't with another character, then we will likely try to avoid it. But this particular thing, I think...
I can see there's actually been some real debate about this because I'm
Oh my
personally
God.
a speedrunning fan, and I like to watch speedruns, and I enjoy that community a lot. And I guess our feeling is we're not intentionally making the game glitchy. And that's safe to say.
He knows this.
But I'm sure that no matter what, speedrunners being what they are, they will find a way to break things wide open. And it might be a new route for them. It might be a new system of speedrunning for it.
Cruise boosting was controversial at the studio, in the end. The code he brought with him wasn't used in the game. And cruise boosting also isn't in the remake. Although, SHiFT did provide a huge contribution to the game. That was having them change the camera angle. SHiFT and the fans didn't like it, so he went into the debug tool and adjusted the angle to be more like the original. The camera angle he created was used in the final release, and also used in Purple Lamp's next SpongeBob game, Cosmic Shake, although 2019 wouldn't be all perfect for SHiFT. In the summer, the game was growing even more. Big Let's Players like Super Mega began playing the game. One of their most popular videos ever is a compilation of them playing the game. And likely due to this popularity, SHiFT was re-invited to play the game at GDQ again. However, he would get into major controversy, as he was suddenly banned from participating, which was a shock to SHiFT. SHiFT wasn't supposed to be there playing that year. He was on a backup list for months, so if someone pulled out, they would put him in. Shortly before the event, he was asked to play on Wednesday. However, he wasn't going to be in the area that day. Games Done Quick and him had a back and forth, in which they were very accommodating to him and his situation, as they wanted him to be there and play. However, according to SHiFT, after the situation was settled and he was scheduled to be there, GDQ banned him until 2021 in a vague email citing harassment. SHiFT later found out this was due to the organizers discovering a clip of him using a homophobic slur. SHiFT defended himself, saying the clip was from a year ago, and when he used the word originally, he was banned from Twitch for a whole month. SHiFT claimed he didn't use the word in a homophobic way, a stance he still holds. Someone in his chat got under his skin, and he used the worst word he could think of.
But I still feel like I'm responsible. I've been responsible for a while of apologizing for being so hot-headed in the past and getting instantly upset with people who would say mean things to me and responding to them in an unhealthy way. Again, like, obviously, I was never going to use that word again after I used it that one time. I've learned how to respond to people in a healthier way, in general.
He decided to remove the word from his vocabulary after the ban, as he didn't want people thinking he held homophobic beliefs, and hurt anyone who might have been offended by its use. He also wanted to do what he felt was best for the community. SHiFT publicly spoke out against the ban. He got a lot of support from people in the broader gaming content creator space, including from big streamers like Connor Eats Pants. A lot of people felt punishing him for something so long ago, for something he didn't appear to even do anymore, and said he regretted doing, was wrong. A post he wrote ends with him condemning cancel culture, calling it dangerous. He claims a group of trolls dig up and take stream clips out of context, and he believes they are the ones who got him banned. This wouldn't be the full extent of the ban. Take this next part with a grain of salt, but allegedly, according to a source at the event, any donation that mentioned SHiFT was ordered to be ignored. A big part of SHiFT's defense was the topic of self-growth. In a paste ban he wrote, he talks about how the Twitch ban was good for him, as it forced him to take a break. He spoke about how he understood now that you need to ignore trolls and not be toxic on stream. SHiFT wrote, a common thing on his stream was he would roast trolls in his chat, but he was going to stop. While he seems to have stopped using slurs, I'd imagine if he was, he'd be on kick at this point, he seemingly still continues to beef with trolls and act toxic on stream, years after writing this.
My God, what the What happened to you? What happened to you? When did you become Ah! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
It's like he diagnosed his problem, but decided not to fix it. Although we'll focus more on that later. While speaking to SHiFT, he told me the livestream fails community wanted him to launch a campaign against GDQ. While GDQ is popular, some of their decisions have attracted a lot of detractors. One really bizarre decision they made in the past was banning a speedrun commentator and rudely confronting him and kicking him out in person for wearing a hat they thought was a Make America Great Again hat at the event. It wasn't, so they unbanned him, only then to reban him, alleging this time he unplugged the power strip cable. They also banned another speedrunner for simply owning a MAGA hat, not even for wearing it at the event from what I can tell. Although SHiFT has refused to become a vocal GDQ detractor. He simply just wanted to defend himself, as he seemingly wasn't interested in attacking a charity event, and he would return to GDQ years later. But the saga with GDQ wouldn't keep him down, as during that summer he would become the first person to beat the any% run in under 50 minutes. And in November 2019, SHiFT became the first person to 100% the game in under 80 minutes. In 2020, SHiFT began releasing a series of documentaries about Bikini Bottom speedrunning to help make the game's speedrunning community and history more accessible to anyone interested. The videos received over 1 million views. However, popular creator Moist Critical watched the documentaries on stream, and his reaction video to the documentaries has almost 4 million views. To be clear, Critical asked permission from SHiFT to do this. He's not just stealing his content, and the video is nowhere near as long as the two documentaries put together. Also, according to SHiFT, Critical is apparently a longtime viewer and fan of his, which is pretty cool. SHiFT told me he's blessed and thankful that kind people care and promote what he does. Despite the wild success of the first 2 parts, the series has seemingly been left incomplete. It was supposed to be 4 parts. Although, the reason he never made the other episodes is not because he's lazy. He's just happy with how part 2 ended, saying it's perfect as it is. SHiFT's documentaries contain the narrative that speedrunning the game helped revive its popularity. While talking to SHiFT, I asked if he personally takes credit for helping revive the game. He made it clear he doesn't want to take full credit. However, he feels he helped get the ball rolling, but there was a lot of other people involved too. SHiFT released these documentaries on his own channel. Although he isn't the narrator, and the documentaries talk about him in the third person, despite the documentaries being on his channel. Some viewers criticized the documentary, especially at the part where the documentary addressed SHiFT's critics regarding his behavior on stream.
Now I can wear 4 pairs of underwear. This is great.
Why is this not f***ing dropping?
Their point being, since SHiFT was directly involved and had control over the production, it was biased. Critical defended him, saying it's not that serious. So it doesn't matter if he's unprofessional on stream, and it's just a documentary about speedruns. Of course, SHiFT, the best speedrunner, would need to be involved in the creation of a documentary about the game's speedrun.
Some admired SHiFT's display of passion, while others just couldn't hang. Members of the community questioned how SHiFT's behavior would impact the image of their community, while others became hooked on his intense personality. But SHiFT claimed that venting allowed him to cool down
SpongeBob.
time lost to avoid tilting. And
We need him to be more
personal
professional.
bests seemed to back this
Our
up.
PR
It's a
department.
good showcase, though.
Some routing changes
This
were only made
docu-series
just to
slash
save
whatever is quite
menu
awesome.
Scrolls.
Well, it is, and
SHiFT
the best part is it comes from the actual, like, madman himself, SHiFT. So it's an entire, well, not just him, of course, it was the whole community effort, but it's really always cool to see, like, the #1 player in the game be the one reporting on things as they happened and how things progressed. I always think that's the best part, because you get, like, the top player perspective. He's jerking himself off. Well, who better to report on the history of the game than the person who's best at it? For example, let's say, hypothetically, House of Caravan was getting a speedrun documentary going to Netflix. I would, of course, have to be the one to talk about it, because I was the best. Right? You'd want that perspective. Who's more knowledgeable than the person that's the best at it? Now, as long as you don't check the speedrun records for House of Caravan, it would make sense.
Watch Battle for Bikini Bottom throughout
An
each
unbiased
day.
view.
With so many outlets to watch the
Bro,
game,
it's not politics, it's
prospective runners
speedrunning Battle for
continued to
Bikini
gain
Bottom.
interest.
Why-
The group made sure
why do you
to
need
keep
an
the full
unbiased
80%
view? It's just a
tutorial,
history
along
of the
with portal to their
speedrun.
friends' streams readily available for
What do you mean?
anyone to
He's contributed a lot of research into the game, and has dominated the scene for years. SHiFT and FUF had a very brief back and forth competition for first place in any percent. But ever since June 19th, 2016, SHiFT has been in first place. It's been almost a decade, and he's never let go of his spot. We are now going to talk about the most infamous discovery by him. This was the GamerGunk method in 2021. Runners were researching the best hardware to run the game. It was determined that an Xbox released between 2001 to 2003 with a Samsung disc tray was the best way to run the game, as it had faster load times. Although there was an issue with this, as some runners used game lag to help do glitches. And that was an issue on this hardware because it ran the game so well. But one guy, named Swagmaster Doritos, was able to do these glitches while running the best hardware. SHiFT correctly determined that this was because the guy's game disc was dirty. So SHiFT and other speedrunners started rubbing their sweat and fingerprints onto the disc in a certain pattern. This would help do the lag glitches on the better hardware. This is arguably what SHiFT is most well known for, as a series of videos he made documenting the situation and research has received over 2 million views. And also articles have been released discussing the absurdity of the situation. A week later, this technique became outdated, due to an even better way being discovered, that being soft modding the Xbox to download the game to the hard drive. This is a divisive topic in speedrunning communities, as sometimes they want you to play the game on a completely untouched piece of hardware, with the original disc or cartridge. Although the Bikini Bottom community allows this soft modding to take place in competitive runs. Believe it or not, this is still not the most outlandish thing he's done, and I think that would be his 80-day subathon, called the SHiFT-A-Thon. For 80 days, SHiFT streamed non-stop. Why did he do this? Well, at the time, Twitch partnered streamers received a 70-30 revenue split, although it had been leaked that they were going to be getting rid of that, making the split more in favor of Twitch. So to capitalize on the fact SHiFT might be making less money per subscription on Twitch, he decided to do a subathon. A subathon is basically every time someone subscribes to the streamer on Twitch, which costs $5, the stream gets lengthened. SHiFT achieved over 30k subscriptions at one point. He told me after taxes, this event made him 140k. This was not his first subathon, but it was seemingly his most successful and well-known one, and it wouldn't be his last. With a massive stream like this going on for months, there is bound to be some issues. During this, a clip of SHiFT would go viral on live stream fails.
We just need 5 subs. 5 subs in like a minute. We straight up have like a minute, guys. Do you think this is begging? I'm telling you guys how to save money. If I wanted to make more money, I'd let you guys drop the combo, and then I get the 50 when it's worth a minute, and then we get more subs to get the... Like, you don't understand how math works, okay? You can't argue with math. Stop begging. I'm begging for you guys to save money. Stupid. Just ban that guy.
SHiFT explained to me during his stream, the timer was set up to be lengthened more if viewers gifted a lot of subs in bulk. The clip shows SHiFT trying to sell subs to his audience and appearing to berate a fan, although it appears in the clip that that guy wasn't a fan. So SHiFT was simply making fun of the guy, but he regrets how he handled the situation in hindsight. This would create tension between SHiFT and the streamer Ludwig, as Ludwig would accuse his subathon of being unethical. According to SHiFT, Ludwig then started grilling him in his chat. He also demanded that SHiFT show his earnings to his audience, with Lud guessing how much SHiFT had made that month. Although they recently had another interaction in DMs, and it seems the quote-unquote beef is over.
I talked about this to him privately, and I talked to him about it, and we're pretty much settled on this topic. The only thing that I know that he told me, he was never personally coming after me or attacking me. When he looked into the situation, he arrived at a similar conclusion that the subathon that I was doing is not the same as the subathons that he had in mind when he was talking about. I don't want to drop names, but there are people who tend to like set the subathon standards so low that they just kind of go on forever. I felt like it was inappropriate that he came to my chat and started questioning me about the subathon, and it came off in an accusatory way.
He accused you being unethical, correct?
Not outright. Without taking a look for himself, like what was going on, he said this is going too far, and then he went into asking questions after that. But he was kind of just like questioning what I was doing with the subathon and like having a discussion about like, should you run the timer this way, and you should probably be showing people how much money you're making on a weekly basis, because that would be what he called transparent. He was disagreeing with me on the way that I chose to show people my transparency with the subathon. So the fact that I was like encouraging people to continue pushing the subathon and trying to make a sale and keep it going, you know, like trying to sell the subathon like a product instead of just like, oh no guys, please stop giving me money, I'm so tired, right? Ironically, I was like that by the end of the second one because I wasn't enjoying that one by the end. That I was willing to stream 14, 18, 20 hours a day at the time because I was really enjoying it. And I think that people just kind of couldn't really wrap their heads around like why is he enjoying this? The only subathons that I've seen, like the streamers are miserable and they're tired.
Let's fast forward a bit. In April 2023, SHiFT brought down the 100% record even further, becoming the first person to fully complete the game in under 70 minutes. SHiFT is a master of his craft. He's brought down the any percent by more than 24 minutes and the 100% by 43 minutes. Also in the summer, SHiFT did another successful subathon called the 2023 Sponge-A-Thon. The concept being, SHiFT was going to marathon all of the SpongeBob games, or at least most of them. This spawned the community meme, Movie Forever, or Movie Madness. Bikini Bottom had an asset flip game called the SpongeBob SquarePants Movie, which pretty clearly was made to promote the movie it's named after. SHiFT would play it, trying to complete the game doing things like not taking any damage. At the beginning of the subathon, SHiFT appeared to be having fun, but near the end of the subathon, SHiFT felt that his audience was being disrespectful, which led to him yelling, much to the pleasure of his detractors.
Can we just go back to the days when I could just like stream something that I was passionate about and be able to make a decent living off of it? No, we can't, because you all take that for granted too. You all fucking shit on me for putting time into something. If I were playing Mario, you'd be fucking sucking my fucking cock. You'd be dumping the subs on me if I were fucking playing 120 star. But no, I chose the fucking Yellow Man game. And this is the fucking thanks I get for doing that. I chose the wrong game to invest 20,000 hours into if I wanted to fucking live a comfortable life, and I had to fucking subject myself to this shit every fucking year. Yeah, that's right.
You would think after everything we've gone over, SHiFT would be a pretty happy guy. He's the best in his category. He's inspired people to compete. He's had multiple successful videos discussing his accomplishments. He's been featured numerous times in the Guinness Book of World Records. And he's like been on the cover of magazines. He has an active audience that watches him every day. He's held a giant subathon where he's made over 100K, alongside another wildly successful subathon. However, SHiFT appears to be miserable, at least within some stream clips you can find online. Remember that self-improvement he discussed when he was banned from GDQ? Well, that behavior is still seemingly ongoing. You can find what feels to be like an endless amount of content of him getting unbelievably angry, both at the game and at people in chat. When you have someone like SHiFT, someone who streams non-stop and gets mad, it's inevitable you're gonna get trolls and critics and the likes. Contrasting SpongeBob's happy-go-lucky world and music with a nearly 30-year-old man screaming is intriguing. However, these aren't just random nobodies in his chat. There is a community of clip channels dedicated to making memes and compilations of his streams, designed to critique and mock him. They also have their own community Discord servers. At one point, in order to join one of them, you needed to fill out a questionnaire giving answers about how much you dislike SHiFT. Now, normally, if you're a streamer who already has mainstream appeal and you're in this position, you would just ignore it and not engage with them. Because they're trolls, right? That's what they want. Unfortunately for SHiFT, despite years ago writing a document outlining how he knows being toxic on stream and engaging with trolls leads nowhere good, he continues to act toxic on stream and directly calls out his trolls, which obviously they enjoy a lot. There's a lot of SHiFT content responding to his critics and trolls and detractors. He'll say things like they're more miserable than him and that they should take a 5-day break, mocking the attitude some of them have that he should take a break from the game. However, as the years have gone on, he told me some of these people have apologized as they've gotten older. And while watching his streams live myself, I realized these angry outbursts and responses to detractors seem to be less frequent than I thought by, just viewing these clip channels. Most of his streams are just him silently playing the game for hours, sometimes responding to chat or commentating the gameplay. Remember how he started streaming the SpongeBob movie game? I think one thing that added onto his enjoyment was his dislike of the community around that game. During a stream after the subathon, SHiFT went on a rant that he then posted to his main channel, claiming the community was the punk rock Bikini Bottom.
It's literally just the punk rock battle for Bikini Bottom. It's battle for Bikini Bottom without SHiFT and without interesting tech and a shit ton of filler. But they'll still take it instead of having to deal with SHiFT.
And that the people who speedran that game were people that just simply disliked him, and that they were kicked out of the Bikini Bottom community. During his 30-minute rant, he goes on to brag about how he made the game more popular than they ever did.
So after a while, I'm just like, f it, dude. This is the year that I focus on my stream. And we did a subathon. It was so f***ing astoundingly successful. And the best part was, it was f***ing doing it with movie. Literally taking a game they couldn't f***ing get to take off for half a decade and doing it in 1 month. To make things better, anybody who was like, oh, he was only able to do it because of movie, it lasted 50 more days after movie ended, and we weren't even playing SpongeBob games during that time. So nobody can fucking say anything, and they hate it. They fucking hate that they can't say anything. All they can say is that I scammed people, or that I didn't deserve to make that much money. But I fucking won. I won in every possible way. I fucking won. Nobody can fucking say anything now, and they hate it. They fucking hate it.
Listen, there's an endless amount of this drama stuff. I could make 10 documentaries about all of this stuff, but I just want to do this one. And I want to touch on all aspects of SHiFT's career, so let's just move on for now. We'll touch on this again at the end. In the midst of our conversations, SHiFT noted how he has a very internally driven, achievement-based mindset, which he feels he needs in order to be as successful as he is within speedrunning the game, and that the game is very time-consuming to get good at. You can often find SHiFT live on Twitch, as he near daily streams for 8 to 12 hours, just playing SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. According to his Twitch stats, he streamed the game for over 18,000 hours. While working on this video, I witnessed him practice a single move for weeks on stream. This single move only lowers the speed run by 10 seconds. He is spending hours just to shave 1/6 of a minute off his run, but it's required if he wants to try and lower the run to a sub 40. SHiFT told me about how he faced chronic health issues, some of which directly impacted his speedrunning. He described beginning to notice in 2020 chronic inflammation and potential carpal tunnel. These issues didn't start to get bad until 2021. For anyone, these are really bad issues to have. Although when you're a gaming entertainer, it threatens your whole job and income. Your health issues. You started having health issues at one point, and it was going on and it's affected your speedrunning abilities, from my understanding.
Yeah. For somebody who's been streaming for 8 years, you're going to have physiological changes when you go from, I was 19 when I started streaming. Now I'm 27. So that's a lot of life to live, and you're going to go through physiological change. You're going to go through life experiences. Like, things are going to change in that time. Small things that started to build up and affect the way that I played the game. Around the age of, I think, 23, I started getting these chronic issues in my wrist and my elbow, kind of like a tennis elbow situation, or like tendonitis and carpal tunnel symptoms, which a lot of streamers and speedrunners deal with, by the way, not unique to me. This is actually something that I ended up talking to Simply about. He's another streamer who speedruns Mario 64. But I found myself in 2021, like, just stuck inside. I wasn't exercising, I wasn't doing anything active. I was eating a lot of garbage because, so I was eating a lot of like fast food and stuff, like really just like not taking good care of myself because the circumstances didn't really allow for it. I was streaming every day, like 6 to 7 hours of speed runs, and after that, like, my wrist I wouldn't be able to play. It would just like be tingling so much. I had to like switch to like a less stressful game.
SHiFT decided to change his diet, and it helped him.
So I was able to go to the grocery store and start eating better, and I was spending more time playing the game, not like eating snacks during stream and stuff. And I noticed that my health was improving. Like, I wasn't getting as much inflammation and much tension in my wrists and my elbow and my neck, and all these other areas of my body were starting to feel a lot better. So it sent me down like a trip of like trying to understand, like, what did I do differently that caused me to be able to play the game for 10 hours a day again and not feel the exhaustion and the pain and the tension and the stiffness that I was feeling before. Long story short, by the end of the year, I was on the ketogenic diet, if just to try and like put it in like a very simplistic way. It's the removal or just like going very, very low on carbs. And also with that, I tried to pair it with like not eating as many meals as frequently and cutting out the snacking, especially on the unhealthy stuff, to try and give my body more time to decompress between meals, and eating healthy meals that, again, like, we're low on carb. When you eat something that you shouldn't have, or if you're eating too many meals and your body doesn't have enough time to decompress, like, it causes a lot of inflammation in whatever areas of your body you're like stressing the most. So, like, for me, like in my wrist area, like, I'm using it so much. I thought, like, because I was skinny, I could get away with eating those things and there'd be no consequences. But sometimes being overweight is not like the consequence of poor health habits. Sometimes it just prevents you from doing the things that you're passionate about. And if it's between ice cream and playing the game as I do, like as well as I do, and as effectively as I do, then the ice cream is gonna go,
Besides this, he's also faced issues of bad illnesses, which he continued to live stream through. In 2022, there were 2 times where he lost his voice while streaming. He told me this was because of his water pitcher he was drinking out of. He wasn't cleaning it properly, which caused him to get sick. And as recently as January 2024, he was coughing up blood due to getting the flu, which led to bronchitis. And despite facing those issues, he still continued to stream the game. I'm not a SHiFT expert. I don't know the lore nearly as much as his fans and critics and trolls likely do. And this isn't a defense video, this isn't an endorsement, nor is this a hit piece. This is simply a rehashing of events regarding the career of someone I find to be fascinating. From what I've seen, SHiFT appears to be someone who is dedicated to pushing his limits to push the game's speedrun to its limits. He set his first world record with a time of 1 hour and 7 minutes, and he has brought that time down drastically, with it now nearing the verge of being beaten in under 40 minutes. He still does seem to be very passionate about the game. When I started researching, I kinda got the vibe that he felt like he trapped himself playing this game. On Twitch, it can be very easy to trap yourself into playing one game. That's also a similar narrative his detractors push. Surprisingly, SHiFT told me he could have cashed out on different types of content, especially around the time when Rehydrated came out. He simply just enjoys the original game and prefers to stick to his roots, even if it's not the most popular move to make, even if streaming its remake, or streaming Friday the 13th, would benefit him more. SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom is his hobby, it's his job, and it's what he loves. And seemingly, at least at a first glance, it's what he despises, all at once. And when something goes wrong during an attempt to lower his world record even more, he can get very angry on stream, saying things that range from criticizing himself with a seething rage to blasphemy, all over a video game he voluntarily chooses to play. When I told him he should try to stop raging on stream, he explained how it's a frustrating and difficult game to speedrun, so of course he'll get mad on stream. He's also expressed that his fans also enjoy his rages too, so there's really no incentive for him to stop. And while I'm sure his fans do enjoy the rages, some people don't, and then some people try to troll him into doing it more because they find it funny. SHiFT has been doing his content with the rages for almost a decade now, and I do not see him stopping at all. SpongeBob may not be the most competitively run game. SHiFT is 2 minutes ahead of the guy in second place. It's basically his game. Theoretically, he doesn't have to worry about somebody taking his spot at number 1 anytime soon. He basically has an entire monopoly on content around speedrunning the game, which means he can just go at his own pace that he is comfortable with. And right now, he seems comfortable with, or at least willing, to stream the game for up to 12 hours every day. I think everybody wants to be good at something, and SHiFT is dedicated to holding on to the title of the greatest SpongeBob player in the world.
No, like, no matter what, like, if I keep going with this game, like, sure, I'm gonna hate it sometimes, but at the end of the day, like, it's what I care about, so I should just keep doing it. You know, lean into making fans who appreciate that part of you and make you feel human for doing that. And ignore the people who make you feel like a freak for doing it. Is what I've learned over the years. It's so stupid. When will they learn?